Hey everybody, welcome back. This is our 2004 Dodge Durango, and let's talk about it a little bit today. So this will have been in the family for 20 years come January, I believe 4th of 2024. So just a few more months and we'll have had this in the family for about 20 years now. Kind of crazy if you think about that. So to give a little backstory, my mom had a 2001 Dodge Durango, and while she was in the shower, my dad ended up selling it to my oldest brother while she was in the shower. She was not happy that her car was sold. So in return, they ended up going down to the Dodge dealership and she custom ordered this one. So they did the spec sheet and built it to exactly what they wanted because they knew they wouldn't just find it on a lot somewhere. So this is a 2004 limited 5.7 Hemi. It has pretty much every option available at the time: sunroof, leather heated seats, traction control. It also has the 545 RFE 5-speed automatic transmission. And as you can see, we did some add-ons back when it was new at the time. We put the Hemi emblem here so people would know, because that was a new thing at the time. My mom was probably the first person around for a while that had one of these, especially being a blue one. We added the Ram 20-inch wheels back when it was new. Nitto tires, those have been changing out. We had Toyos on there for a while. So these are 275 55 20 Nitto all-terrains. They do fit stock, no lift or anything. There's torsion keys you can adjust a little bit, but 275 55 20s will clear stock. No rubbing, no issues. As far as in here, it is all held up pretty well. As you can see, just over 133,000 miles on this now. Leather seats, all original, never been redone. A little wear here on the edge. So we do have heated seats in here, sunroof. We have rear TV, DVD, where you can hook, I think back in the day it was N64, something like that. Set it up in here, play games on, road trips, things like that. We do have third row leather seating back there. So in here, it really kind of aged pretty well, considering, we do have the gray, not tan or anything like that. It has kind of retro styling gauges in here, which is pretty cool. We have our radio stack, 5-disc CD changer, AC. We also have rear AC controls back here for the rear seat. As you can see, the air vents up on the roof on both sides, and there's actually some back there in the third row as well that come down from the roof and point straight at you. So it's pretty much loaded if you think about it for 2004. She was cross-shopping this at the time with the Escalade, the Denali, a Ford Excursion, and I think she was looking at a Suburban too. But she was really back and forth between this and the Denali. But ultimately she decided on this because it was kind of a newer, different option. Most people went to the other ones. She wanted to be a little different. Dodge came out with a Hemi. The first year for these, we had a Hemi Dodge Ram at the time as well. So this was kind of a natural selection to go to. And if you can hear it back there, we do have MagnaFlow exhaust on here that was put on when it was new. I think the first thing she did was the 20-inch wheels, window tint, and the MagnaFlow exhaust. As you can probably hear that pretty well. And honestly, that's kind of why one of these is a slept-on option. So we have a Hemi V8. It can seat 7 people. It has rear coil suspension in it. That way, it does ride a little more comfortable. It can tow, so we do tow boats, things like that with it. And I don't know if you've seen the price of these on Marketplace these days, but you can pick one up for a steal, like $3,500 for a decent one. And that's why we haven't sold this one. They bought it new, first owners, custom ordered it, and the value was just never really there resale wise. So they figured, why sell a good running, reliable vehicle? So we kept it for 20 years, which is kind of what we do. So as you can see under here, we do have rear air helper bags, new shocks, the load adjusting ones. That way we don't have any issues with our suspension under here. Aside from that, it is all original and really just serviced as needed. As you can see that there, Durango Limited, and our factory 5.7 Hemi emblem was here. So we just ended up getting more of this one to put on each fender. As you can see under here, it's dirty. You know, we don't keep this a garage clean. We do drive it when we drive it. We probably do need to detail this up pretty soon. But as far as servicing on it, I think we've just done, general maintenance, spark plugs, wires, batteries. I think batteries were probably the biggest issue this thing's had, just when batteries die after a few years. But if you think about it, we've probably replaced the battery 5 times, 20 years, something like that. As far as faults or cons with this Durango, there's really only a handful. The biggest issue, in my opinion, is this cowl design. If your cowl is worn out, there's a rubber seal up here that meets the windshield, and you have to take this cowl off for servicing most things on this engine because the engine sits so far into the firewall back there. So most times this engine gets serviced, you have to remove this cowl area, because once you pull this off, you can actually access the backside of this motor pretty well. But the issue with that, if it gets worn, clips get broken, and you don't seal well against this windshield, water can run down the windshield behind this cowl. And I'm not sure what it gets into down here, but the rainwater can cause a misfire if it runs down that windshield through the bad cowl area and into the engine. Don't know why, but it'll misfire. So we did that replacement on here once. We ordered this new plastic cowl piece from the Dodge dealer. It was like $400, but that's not bad considering what you get for the money, if that's really the only expense. The only other wear item would be this little cover that goes over the seat belt retainer down there. And just sliding in and out, you can actually accidentally grab it and pop it out and break it. They used to sell just this piece at the dealer, but it's since been discontinued. So now you have to buy the whole plastic seat trim just to get this little piece. And then naturally the seat bolsters, those get a little bit wear, but as you can see, this isn't even bad considering. So weirdly enough, that's the only issues this thing has ever had in 20 years. I think back when it was new, they had the AC redone under warranty, but that was about it. So 20 years, and you're talking minimal, just regular servicing, the plastic cowl for $400. That's hard to beat for something that can, tow the family, is reliable enough to road trip, has decent power. It'll squeal the tires, which is a little crazy if you think about it, but it's decently quick for what it is. It can tow the family, tow a boat, tow everybody to the lake on vacation, whatever you need to do. It has the 545 RFE. At least it's not a 4L60. As you can see, we do have some crud in it, but overall, just look at it. 20 years. Granted, it has been garage kept for 20 years basically, but just look how well it held up. That's kind of hard to argue with. And it sounds like this. So think about that. For the price point, what you get for it, and it sounds like this. How can you argue with that? So that's why we have a Gen 2 Durango, even though we have a brand new Hellcat Red Eye. You can't go wrong with keeping one of these around. It has pretty much always been our go-to backup extra car. Also, a random weird feature not many people realize. It does have reclining rear seats, as you can see. Not a whole lot, but you know, at least it does give you something. Pretty cool. And although they do have, you know, plasticky doors, rubbery doors, look how well this thing has held up. 20 years, 133,000 miles, and it still looks brand new. So, in my opinion, if you're in the used car market and you're considering one of these, if you find one anywhere close to the condition this one is, buy it. At that point, it doesn't really matter what the price is. It's going to be a deal. You can't lose on it, really. It's going to be reliable. You're going to be able to pretty much do anything with it. And that's hard to argue with. So that's all for today's video on our Gen 2 Dodge Durango.